Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of the Southern Outdoorsmen Podcast. Turkey hunters rejoice. You know, we got a lot of messages about turkey hunting stuff the other day because I complained about it on the last episode, so maybe I should just complain more. Today, we're going to talk about some turkey hunts that you just went on, Jacob. Jacob pulled a Babe Ruth, called a shot, said he was going to tag out before I got back into town, and that he did. Jacob, how you doing?
I feel like $1 million. I'm just going to stretch out right here.
Yeah, just kick it back, drinking some coffee at 7 o'clock at night.
Yep, need it.
Yeah.
We killed another one this morning, too. So.
I know. It's kind of crazy.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you've been getting after it.
I didn't kill it. Brother killed it.
Yeah, so to catch everyone up to speed, this turkey season's been... it started kind of slow, I think, for both of us, right? I mean, we were hearing some birds, but, you know, they weren't acting right. We called one up on opening morning and kind of screwed up the opportunity. And then I finally ended up killing one right before I went out of town.
Mm-hmm.
And
I missed one that day, missed them the day before.
Yeah, and you had just missed a couple, and that was right when we interviewed Coach Waters.
Mm-hmm. And
then I went out of town, and you're like, I'm going to tag out when you go out of town. All right.
By God.
You take it from here.
Yeah. No, so I will say this right now. If you have not re-listened to Coach Waters' episode, go back and do that. Go watch it. Go listen to it. I did everything he talked about, and it worked very well.
Yep, definitely.
We've killed 6 birds in, what's today? Today's the 1st. So we've killed 6 birds in like 12 days.
Yeah.
12, 13 days. So, and that's not hunting every day either.
Yeah, I'm actually really interested to get into this because we've been talking.
Oh, forgot to get my call.
Oh my God, where is it?
In the truck.
Time out. Go get it. Time out, everybody. Jacob's going to get his call because we got a lot of requests on this.
Be right
back. All right, we're back. So Jacob had to go run and grab his turkey call. What I was saying before, we got a lot of requests on having an actual calling sequence in the podcast, kind of like we did with Coach Waters, because that's super helpful for people. And correct me if I'm wrong, but you have used essentially the same calling sequence on all these birds, right?
Yeah, every one of them.
Everyone's the same. So you killed 4. You killed 4 in Alabama.
Yep.
You killed 4, and now Thomas has killed 2. So you took your brother, got him. He's 2 for 2.
He's gone 2 hunts, and he's killed 2 birds in public.
Hey, I ought to just quit. Quit while you're ahead, bro.
Greg told me, he's like, you just need to take him on a death march.
That's what I'm saying. Take him
on a wild goose chase.
There you go. Yeah, it's too easy for him right now. So anyways, yeah, you went and grabbed your turkey call. But we were talking a little bit this season about how there seems to be a point, and I think even, I can't remember if it was Coach or the other guy that we were talking about interviewing, was talking about how there's a certain point in the season where it just like really turns on.
Yeah, that's the other guy.
And the turkeys
later.
Okay, so the turkeys, they start acting like they want to die.
Yeah,
and I would say you found it, right?
Kinda. We'll talk about it because a lot of people, because I killed 3 in 3 days, and then the 4th one I killed one Thursday, Friday, then Saturday. Didn't hunt Sunday. Didn't hunt Monday. Hunted Tuesday. Get my butt whooped and killed on Wednesday. So, only 2 of them actually gobbled either while they were coming in or striking them, and then they came in, came in, kind of silent, but he gobbled, quite a few times before he came in. Then 2 of them, they were completely silent. So that's when I was like, I'll say it, they're ready to die. Most people, when they think that, they think turkey hard gobbling, just comes in, gobbling every step to the beat of the shotgun, and only had really one do that specifically. It was the last one, which was the biggest bird.
Yeah.
So, but I'll say this real quick. So Coach Waters was extremely impactful, just because when you have a guy on like him who's killed a ton of birds, I think he said over 300 turkeys, a lot of them coming from public land, and talking about his hunting style, his calling style. One thing he said in that episode that was super impactful for me is when I get inside killing distance, and I think he might have mentioned about roughly 200 yards of a bird, he tones it down tremendously. And when I first started doing it, I almost thought I wasn't calling loud enough.
Yeah.
Like, there's no way this turkey can hear me.
Yeah.
And it's amazing how good turkey's hearing is. And again, I'll kind of go over this with everybody, but what I was using, actually I did a reel on this, is this houndstooth Dixie Hen custom ceramic pot. and I've got some chalk on here, which is something that Coach Ron talked about doing.
Yeah, you got to show it to the camera.
Oh, sorry. Yeah. You got some chalk I put on it, which just makes it bite a little bit better.
Which is something Coach told us. I don't know if he said that on the podcast.
No, he was after the fact.
So, yeah, we were talking to him after the fact. We actually got some of his calls, and we were talking about all these different pot calls, and he was showing us all his old pot calls. And, yeah, he mentioned that putting chalk on certain kinds of calls, I think he said he likes to do it on ceramic, or he said it'll work on a ceramic. I don't think he has a ceramic.
Yeah.
What was it? Maybe crystal? Or maybe he didn't like it on crystal.
I don't know. I haven't tried it on crystal.
But anyways, I put it on my ceramic too, and I really, really, really like it.
Yeah.
And also he said it kind of highlights, because on those ceramic calls, they don't scruff up, like a glass call does or a crystal call, where you can like tell where you've conditioned it and where you've been running it. Like it kind of, it's hard to score the surface where you can tell. And he's like, it just helps you in the heat of the moment see the sweet spot, because you just chalk up the sweet spot.
Yeah, and actually when we were at Coach's house and we were about to leave, we messed around with this call, and I'll let him mess around with the striker, and he was like, "Okay, this is your sweet spot." And we just kind of, what he was doing, he was like kind of turning the call. You cluck purr more in the center of the pot, kind of yelp on the outer edge of the pot, not on the very edge, but close to the outer edge. You can yelp in the middle too. It sounds more kind of hollow sounding instead of crisp, but we were kind of messing around with it, and he's like, this is that sweet spot, which is right between the laminated pieces of wood here. And that's how I've been holding it every single time. And before I actually started putting chalk, because I didn't put chalk on it for the first 2 birds. And then I remember him talking about it. I'm like, let me try it. And I put some on, and I was like, oh, this is like, it just bites a lot better, like just having a little bit of chalk on there with your striker. But anyway, kind of going back to like the turkey hunting though, he was extremely impactful for me. Just, again, that subtle kind of covert calling. Like, if you think about turkey hunting, you watch any turkey hunting videos, 95 to 99% of the time, if you watch a turkey video, guys are calling real aggressive.
Yeah.
They're yelping on a mouth call. They're cutting on a mouth call. And if you go on public land, when there's a ton of other hunting competition, everybody's doing the same thing for the most part. Like, they're calling real loud. And my thought process after we interviewed Coach Ron is the next opportunity I have where I can locate a turkey is I want to try to get inside that bubble within a couple hundred yards of them and just tone it way down. Just tone it way down and to see how everything does. Because the thing is like, we saw this on the hunt club early in the season where we were working 2 birds that we talked with Coach Ron, that when we were calling to him, we got quiet on them, or more softer, but still not nearly as soft as like what Coach was talking about and kind of what I was trying to do later. But we never really spooked those turkeys, even when we were calling loud, like on a wing bone or whatever. Like, you kind of were able to watch turkeys, and they just kind of sat there, and it never really spooked them. But one thing that made me think of when Coach was talking about like soft calling, covert calling, is the past few encounters I've had with hens really close.
Yeah,
they're like every time I've been around a hen, they're really never not making a sound. They're either scratching the leaves, they're clucking really soft, or they're purring really soft, or they're doing little soft whines.
Yeah.
It's like constantly. And my thought process was, after talking to Coach, is like, I'm just going to sound like that content hen that's like not overly interested in the gobbler, and just see if I can get his curiosity to kind of come in just by doing some of that more softer calling, just like a content hen feeding in the leaves and, feeding in some hardwoods and some oaks and some pines. So kind of going, I'll kind of break down a couple of the hunts, because there were some really good takeaways, because the first 3 hunts, there was an aspect of kind of figuring out where turkeys were roosting at and just hanging with them and not just trying to kill them right off the roost. I mean, that was another thing Coach talked about, was not running in and like, hey, I've got to kill this turkey before the sun comes up. Like, I got to kill him before, 6:30 or whatever. And not putting that kind of pressure on yourself, and just kind of figuring out like, where's the great setup, kind of staying, it's like it's 3 P's: position, persistence, and patience. And kind of using all that at the same time, and it really paid off for me. So the first turkey, I went to an area where, as you heard, I guess it was maybe last week, we were talking about the turkey that Greg Mayhair from Meadow Creek Mounts was able to kill, that I was hunting with him. And we went to an area where I was working this one bird, couldn't get him killed. And I think one reason why is calling a little too aggressively with him, potentially. And ended up, we killed that bird. Well, I went back to that same area and listened from the road, just because there was so much more turkey sound back in there. But I've heard turkeys in the past across the road. Well, that first morning I went back out, when I killed, I had heard 2 birds across the road from me. Ended up making a move, getting back in there, and they were kind of roosted off different ridge points in this system. And this is kind of part of what played a factor because they gobbled real good on the roost. One of them, which is the one I ended up killing, he gobbled good on the ground to probably maybe like 6:30, and they fly down right at that point was probably like 6:10, 6:15. So he only gobbled maybe 10, 15 minutes on the ground and then kind of shut up. I ended up working about halfway between the birds. I got within about 250 yards of each bird. They were kind of splitting me, or I kind of split them, and just did some soft calling there. No responses. Ended up sitting in that area for like an hour and a half. And I'm like, I'm just going to keep doing some soft calling and seeing if I can draw one of these birds in without getting too aggressive, because it's a place that gets a lot of pressure.
Yep.
There's a lot of hunters. Like I've seen hunters there, I've seen hunters, at different spots in that general area, and ended up not getting any responses, no turkeys coming in, but the turkey I ended up killing, he gobbled at like 8:40. And I was still in the same spot. I hadn't gone more than 200 yards from the time fly down was to, 8:40. He gobbled one time at 8:40. So I'm like, I'm going to make a move on him. He was down in a pretty big open bottom. I ended up focusing on side hilling around the ridge that was on one side of the bottom, get on the back side of it. And as I was like slowly working my way down, I probably only went another 150 yards. And I probably did it in like 45 minutes, just like super slow. Kind of doing some soft calling, but really not focused on calling. Just trying to find an area where there's some sign that I can maybe try to call him back up into, because it was close to where I thought he was roosted at. Ended up hitting a saddle, and in that saddle there were some oaks in it, tons of leaves on the ground, and there was a ton of scratch, really fresh scratch. So I'm like, this looks really good. Let me see if I can try to strike the bird from right here, or to see if he's still down at bottom. And I did a yelp sequence with a couple cuts on the back of it with this call. And he cut me off, and he was down at that bottom, probably like 150, 200 yards away. So I'm like, awesome. Well, this kind of goes back to like not overthinking stuff that Greg Mayhew talked about. I was like, man, I need to reposition here. I'm like, no, let's just call him up into the saddle. Like the saddle's perfect. Like there was thick saplings on like one upper edge of the saddle, and there's thick saplings on the other side of the saddle, the other high spot. So I'm like, unless he wants to walk through that thick crap, he's going to have to come right through the middle of this thing. And instead of trying to get up on the crest of it and trying to be able to shoot down, I was on the back side of the saddle. So he was on one side of it, I was on the other side of it. Sat down, scratching the leaves, kind of getting a spot kicked out. And every time I'd sit on a turkey, this is something I started doing, is I intentionally tried to be kind of loud, scratching out a spot. Like I wasn't trying to be quiet. Like I'm trying to like sound like a hen kicking some leaves and feeding.
Yep.
Sat down, ended up doing the same sequence again. Yelp, and then did like maybe 2 or 3 cuts. And this is one of the only turkeys I actually kind of called aggressively too, but you'll kind of see how I transitioned to covert calling afterwards. When I yelped and then did like a 6 note yelp sequence, and then did like 2 or 3 cuts in the back of it, he cut me off. I ended up just cutting back at him.
Do that real quick.
So
Let's get a demonstration of what you got going on.
just like that.
Oh, that sounds good.
And so he cut me off. Well, when he cut me off, I'm like, he hasn't been that fired up really that morning. Like he gobbled okay on the ground, but it wasn't like he was gobbling every 10 seconds or anything. Yeah. So since he cut me off, I'm like, I'm going to cut him back off. Like I already had it in my thought process. Like if he gobbles at me and cuts me off, I'm cutting him off with cuts. So I ended up just started cutting right back at him. And as I was cutting back at him, he just kept gobbling and gobbling and gobbling. And I did it for maybe like 4 or 5 seconds cutting. So kind of like this. So after he gobbled, I just started cutting like this.
And so I actually heard a hen do that right before I killed my turkey, like a couple days before. Actually, it was the day that I called the 2 birds up to like 70 yards and couldn't get a shot at them. There was a hen that had been yelping in the tree, and she flew down, and a turkey far off gobbled, and she did exactly what you just did. Yeah. I mean, she like cut him off and got him real fired up and ended up going off with him.
Yeah, and I've heard 2 hens this year actually cut. It's only like I haven't heard any turkeys like loud yelp. I've heard 2 cut, and they're always like choppy, like they're like pop 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 pop. It's not like pop 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 pop, like kind of like more like a cackle or something.
Yeah, it's almost more like irregular, wouldn't you say?
And after speak about that. So talking about irregular calling. I feel like so many people, and I've watched so many videos, and it works for a lot of people. And I know, like, I've got buddies it works with, like, super clean yelps, really consistent yelps, all that kind of stuff. I started watching some videos, like, just last week or two of, like, hens yelping, like, different videos of wild hens yelping. And it's, like, it's always choppy. Like, it's never the same. It's rare, at least in a lot of the videos, it wasn't ever the same pitch or frequency. Like, she'd be, like, yelping up and down in frequency, like, kind of changing it as she's doing it.
Yeah.
And I know some guys that do that really, really well, and, like, especially with a mouth call, and they can mimic that. I can't do that all that well with a mouth call.
So you're talking like the volume that she's yelping at?
No, here, I'll show you. Kind of like this. So. Kind of, it's, well, other than that squeak on the very last of it, where it's like the pitch is like kind of changing. It sounds choppy, like to your ear, like, oh, that doesn't sound good. If you watch some videos of like wild hens, some of them are super clean yelps.
Yeah.
But a lot of ones I've seen recently, it's like they're doing it. It's like as they're yelping, they're like, yeah, and they're like changing it. And anyway, so I kind of, so like if I ever felt like I was trying to yelp real clean, like just trying to, hold on. Like trying to clean yelp like that, I would intentionally try to like not do that all that much, and like try to like change it with the frequency and like not even the volume, but like almost make it where like one of the notes is slightly more hollow and not as sharp as the other one, and so on. But I would do it a lot softer, which plays in factor for a couple other turkeys. But anyway, so after I do that cut sequence, and he's like gobbling, he could probably gobble 5 or 6 times in like that short time set, that short 5-6 seconds, like just bah 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 bah. Well, when I stopped, he cut me off again. He gobbled one more time. I'm like, all right, you're gonna be dead. So I sit there, give it 10 minutes. I don't hear anything. He doesn't gobble again. I don't hear footsteps walking. It's a real calm day. So I come back, and this is when I kind of started doing more of that covert calling, and just all I'm doing is just clucking and purring and then scratching leaves. So like I would cluck and do some purrs and then just kind of scratching the leaves, like kind of like that. Kind of give listeners an idea what this sounds like. And I'm also, by the way, when I'm clucking and purring, if you looked at like a call volume from like 0%, like you're not calling, 0 sound, to 100% as loud as you can go, it's like 15 to 20% volume.
Okay.
To kind of like give an idea. So kind of like this. I'm going to hold the call up, so. Kind of like that, and it's scratching the leaves, and like 5 minutes later, I hear and he just marched it right up that ridge, right up to that saddle. He came up, Beer went to swing and shot him at like 35 yards and just dropped him.
Got him.
So that built some confidence, but I was still trying to figure out, like, that wasn't just all covert calling. It was like kind of starting out hot and heavy and then really toning it back and trying to get the turkey kind of, in that situation, it's like, trying to see if I can get that temperature up a little bit, and get him to come in. The next day, ended up bouncing to a different spot, and going in another area like I've seen and heard turkeys roosted at, and went in, and it was just like one of those silent days. Got in there and no gobbling activity, nothing on the roost, nothing on the ground, and I was finding fresh scratching, and I ended up finding another saddle in that area that I got set up in, and just hunted in that area for 2 or 3 hours. I mean, it probably got to 8:30, got to being like 9 o'clock, and I was like kind of still inching my way through there. Like, I don't feel very confident running and gunning. Like we talked about this in the podcast.
Yeah.
Like the guys that go out, because every time I've gone, like I've a couple times this season, I've done like 6-8 miles, and I never strike a turkey. I always feel like I'm kind of walking out of birds just to try to find one that gobbles. Yep. So what I've kind of figured out with my hunting style is like, if I can find a place where there's a ton of fresh scratching, it's like historical roost sites, like there's turkeys that have been roosted here. I've heard them here before, seen them here before, whether it's years past or this year, just kind of sticking in that area. And that's what I did for that day. Again, probably didn't go more than probably 500 yards after daylight, and ended up coming up to another saddle, and there's a ton of fresh scratching. I was going to set up in the saddle. And as I was coming up into the saddle, I hear scratching down below me. And I'd already been doing some soft calling, again, that clucking, purring, soft yelps, which I'll demonstrate the soft yelps here in a little bit. And I just hear scratching down below me. I'm like, and the wind was blowing a little bit, but it wasn't terrible, probably like 6, 8, 10 mile an hour. And I was like, is that a squirrel? Is that because I've seen a bunch of squirrels. I was seeing a bunch of squirrels that morning. I'm like, is that a squirrel or turkey? And then I kept hearing and it stopped and, stopped for a minute or two. And it like just scratch. I'm like, that's got to be a turkey. I do some soft calling. And this is one that I didn't do all that covert calling, as much covert calling, because I kind of lost faith in the situation. Ended up doing some soft clucks purrs. I kind of hear it, and after a while, after like 10, 15 minutes, I like sat down on the tree. I'm like, that's got to be a turkey. I set up against a tree, and like the scratching stops. I don't hear anything walking or nothing. I'm like, maybe it's a squirrel like hopping on a tree. So I'm like, I'm just going to try something different and just see what happens. And I brought my box call out, and I try to yelp as quietly as possible, which you can't really yelp quietly on a box call, but just like, yeah, like a little 5-note yelp. And then I hear, and I see 2 redheads coming like this. And I'm like, no freaking. So like, dude, I had the box call still in my hand. I had the gun laying in my lap now because I've been there for like maybe 15 minutes, whatever. I'm like, it ain't a turkey. And then all of a sudden I see redheads coming. I'm like, oh my gosh, dude. I'm like, so like, I like put the box call down, get the gun up, and they're coming through some saplings and stuff. Comes out. The second one's kind of behind some stuff. First one comes out, sees snoot, everything, shoot them, boom, dead at like 22 yards. But like in that situation, especially with the box call, I'm glad I didn't do like a crazy long yelp sequence, like an 8, 10, 14-note yelp or something like that.
Yeah.
Because I feel like that would have been, it was already loud. They probably weren't more than 60 yards from me, 80 yards at the most.
Yep.
But whatever reason, kind of get the curiosity to come up there. So the next day, kind of getting back to covert calling. So like that was kind of like, after it happened, I was like, I can't believe that worked. But also I'm like, maybe like looked up there. I'm like, let's not do that again. Okay. Like if I think it's a turkey, let's focus, keep on the subtle calling, scratching leaves, and just see what happens.
Yeah.
The next day I go back to the first spot where I shot the turkey, where I shot the first one, went back in there. And I took a long loop. I took like, instead of walking how I normally do, I took like a longer loop, kind of getting down by a creek and kind of swinging back up, because I knew there was at least, I thought there's at least probably 2 gobblers in there, and they were roosting between like 2 different points. I was going to try to like get back in there and kind of get between them well before daylight, because the first time I went in there, I didn't do that. I kind of got in a little bit later, and they were gobbling, and it was like I had to wait for them to get on the ground and kind of get situated, kind of drift off before I could move up because of how open some of the woods were. Well, I get set up, and then like at 5:30, 5:25, I have one gobbling. It's on the other side. It's like kind of like we talked about this, and you hear this in a future podcast episode, a ridgetop hub, where it's like you have like this one high spot on this ridge, and you have all these finger points coming off of it. And that's how this spot was. And I was like just off the hub itself. I was kind of like on one of the longer fingers, and on the complete opposite side of this ridgetop hub, on another finger, there's a bird gobbling. So he gobbles like once, and I'm like, it's still early. Let's wait. Let's see if one gobbles right here in front of me. Well, he gobbles twice. I'm like, if he gobbles a third time, we're going over there. He gobbles a third time. I'm like, all right, we'll pick our stuff up. We're running over there. So I work over. I'm like, I think he's like 300-400 yards. I go up and kind of get on the backside of this other saddle, kind of looking over drainage. And when I get in there, I haven't called it or anything yet. And he gobbles, and he's across this big ditch. So there's a big ditch right there. It kind of runs down to this creek. And there's kind of like some thin pines behind, like on that ridge. And then he's on the back side of that ridge. So I'm on one ridge. There's a ditch between me and him, and he's on the back side of that next ridge. Okay. I ended up setting up because I'm like, I don't think I can get any closer to him. It was a real foggy morning, and I'm like, I don't know if I can get any closer because like that's really thick over there. Like I need to try to bring this turkey this direction somehow. So I ended up getting set up, and I probably get set up at maybe 6:10. And typically fly down at that time was like right around 6 o'clock or so, but it was so foggy, like he was still gobbling the tree. Like you couldn't see 100 yards. Like it was just real foggy. Well, I set up and start doing again some soft call, like super soft. I do a fly down with my hat, which I wish I had another hat. Oh, I do have another hat. It's behind one of the cameras. You don't have a hat on. Dang, I was going to say, pass me a hat because I don't have to take my hat off. But I do a fly down with my hat.
just listeners, just take your hat off and just beat it against your arm.
Like pop, 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 like just kind of hit it.
Mimicking the wing beats.
Yeah, of a turkey coming out of the tree. So I start doing some super soft clucks, kind of like this right here. Let's see. Feels weird with this microphone on. It's gonna make it sound louder than what it is.
That doesn't sound very loud.
So do some soft clucks, real soft clucks like that, and he gobbled at them. And then I do a couple more times, and I take the hat off and go pop, 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 pop. He gobbles at it. So I do it again to imitate like another hen coming out. So I do the same thing, soft clucks, and then pop, pop, pop. He doesn't answer that one. But I'm like, okay, well he knows.
Yep.
Okay?
Yep.
So I'm sitting there, and all of a sudden, so I hear an owl hoot behind me, and I hear this owl hoot, and I'm like, that's a freaking person. I hear it, and I'm like, it sounded like a hoot, like a hooting stick or whatever, owl call. And I'm like,
Jacob's been around too many good owl calls because you never hear an owl that you think is an owl.
I always think it's a person.
100% of the time, you think it's a person.
I hear it, and I'm like, there's a dude walking in on me. And then after that, all I hear is the raspy from the same area behind me. The way I walked in, I hear the raspiest yelp. Like I'm saying, it sounded like a box call, like meow, 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 like a 4-note yelp. And I'm like, and it was loud. I'm like, ain't no way that's a freaking person on a box call trying to work it on this turkey. I'm like, are you kidding me? And I'm sitting there, dude, I'm pissed. I'm sitting there, I'm like, what jackwagon came walking in? Because I'm parked in a spot. If I parked there,
you should have had it covered, right?
Yeah, there's not enough. Unless you're parking your truck on top of my truck, you're not gonna be able to walk in right there. And I'm like, gosh dang it. I'm like, man, person walking on me, and this turkey's gone quiet. Okay, he stopped gobbling. So I'm like, I don't know if he's on the ground or not, but I hear this yelping coming from behind me. Well, it does it again, like 4-note, yeah. And I'm like, God, what is this dude doing? And then all of a sudden, I hear this sound, and it scares me. And I don't know what it is. And it's like, the best way to describe it's sorry for the listeners. You might want to turn your volume down. It's like, bah! Like something like that, dude. And I'm like, what? It's like that. And I'm like, what the heck is that, dude? And dude, at that point, dude, listen, I'm sitting there against this red oak tree. And I'm like,
you got a crackhead in the woods.
Dude, I snap my head around. I'm like, what is behind me?
You're trying to be like quiet, not move. You hear that? You're like,
what? Dude, I spun around so quick. And I'm like, what the heck was it? And then, a couple minutes goes by and I hear, yop. And I'm like, is that a Jake? And like, did he try to gobble? And then he did again. It was like, and I'm like, it's a Jake coming in gobbling. And like the first time he gobbled, it was his first gobble of the morning, let me tell you, because he needed to warm up. Yeah. Okay. Dude, he ends up coming in behind. He probably gobbled 40 times behind me. It like progressively get better and better. It started out, I'm telling you, like
his practice.
Yeah, it literally sounded like one note. Like that's what it sounded like. And then it went ba-ba! And then it went ba-ba-ba-ba! And then it kept getting. Anyways, he keeps coming behind.
Man, we all got to start somewhere.
Dude, he's looking for this hen he heard fly down. And he's coming up behind me. And I'm like, I finally glance. I'm like, dude, he's been behind me. He gets up in this little saddle behind me. And he just keeps gobbling.
So that yelp was him.
Yeah.
That raspy.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So
and he's like a 4-note, yop.
Oh, yeah. Had that, yow.
I mean, it sounded like the box. It really sounded like a box call. And finally, I'm like, where's this turkey? I'm like looking behind me. And this because the gobbler's gone quiet on me. I've been sitting here for, 30 minutes now. It's probably 6:30. And this Jake's been behind me gobbling for 15, 20 minutes. And finally, I catch him, or I hear something like hopping up on like a log. And you can tell the claws on a log, like that crunch sound. Uh-huh. And I look over and he jumps up on the down tree next to me. He's kind of looking around and he hops down. And I filmed him. It's on our Instagram where he gobbled like right in front of us, and it's on Facebook too as a reel. But he walks by me at like 25 yards and like gobbles one more time. But the last time he gobbled, it sounded better. Still sounds like a Jake, but it sounded better. He kind of eased off, kind of going towards that gobbler. Well, I keep sitting there. I'm just soft calling, dude. I'm calling like at a 20% volume because I'm like, I know this gobbler heard me, and all I'm doing is like clucks like this. And purring. And then super soft for yelps, and this is kind of an example of one of the yelps. Hold on. And so I do that maybe 1 or 2 times. Well, after one of the times I did it, I kept hearing something. I've got like, I'm kind of side hill on a ridge. There's like a little flat right here that drops down to that drainage, and the Gowler's right in front of me. I kept hearing like there was something up above me, kind of like walking around, and I, again, kept thinking it was a squirrel. Like, it doesn't sound really like a turkey. Well, 10 minutes later, I'm calling again, doing that same call sequence, and then all of a sudden I hear coming from right behind me, and I'm like, oh, that's a turkey, no doubt. So like, I have the call in my hand just like this, and I look over my left shoulder, and all I see is a redhead, big old beard swinging. And he's like maybe 35, 40 yards, kind of like coming towards me.
He didn't catch you like looking back
No,
there?
dude, I'm dude.
Slow.
I'm telling you, dude, it's like you ain't snapping your head around. I had to tell Thomas that a whole bunch. He's like snapping his head around like this, and I'm like, dude, like you like
look
use your
with your eyes, not your
and
head,
then,
boy.
Dude, you slowly just move your head just like this. I mean, like all the YouTube people can see me, but anyways, I kind of looked over my shoulder, and I'm sitting on a good sized tree, and I can see him, and there's like some little saplings between me and him, and you were in there. That's where you found the old feather.
Okay.
So that spot.
Yeah.
So he's coming over my shoulder right there, coming through all those little saplings, and I'm like, so dude, I'll just put the call down. I had the gun on the lat, get the gun up, and I'm like, when he gets behind this tree, I'm going to get the gun up, and then he's going to pop out, and I'm going to be able to get a shot when he's like kind of coming through some of those saplings. I pull up again, shoot him at about, I think 32 yards. He goes down, and I was like, I can't. Well, that's 3 turkeys in 3 days. I'm like, are you kidding me?
When you're hot, baby.
So I go up, and I like, kind of soak it in. I'm like, dude, this is awesome. It was a cool experience. But again, I called. He was probably 50 yards behind me the last time I did that call sequence, but it was so soft. I mean,
Yeah.
It's like one thing Coach Waters talked about is like when you call super soft like this, like I promise you, I think it sounds louder on this microphone than if you take these microphones off, these headsets off and hear it. Like the way a couple guys explained, I hunted with Michael Pike and I've hunted with Thomas twice and I hunted with Anthony. And every time I've hunted with somebody and they're sitting like on a tree next to me or on the same tree, they're like, dude, like I had Michael, he was on a tree like maybe 10 yards from me, and I was doing that sequence. He's like, I can barely hear you. And I'm like, you can, but that turkey 150, 200 yards away can definitely hear.
Oh, yeah.
It's that, I'm telling you, it's like that soft. And Coach Waters talks about it. He said, when you do that, it's really hard. He said, it seems like it's really hard for a gobbler to pinpoint the exact tree it's coming from.
Yep.
So when they come up, they're just they're not looking exactly in your direction. They're just kind of looking in the general area. And every turkey I've killed, except for the first one, second one. The first one, he knew exactly where I was at because I called real loud and they got real soft and he popped up over and he was kind of looking down at the saddle. But this one, he kept just looking around, like never looked at me once, even when I shot him.
Yeah.
Just came in looking. So fast forward, we ended up, next day was Sunday, went to church. Monday, we had some really good weather coming in. I ended up not hunting Monday. I'm like, dude, I need to recoup after killing all these turkeys. Tuesday, I'm like, I'm going to go Tuesday. I was going to go to a different piece of public, okay?
Yep.
And so in Alabama, you can only kill 2 birds per piece of public. So like you kill 2 on any WMA, and then you got to kill 2 on another WMA. If you kill your 4, you can kill 2 on forest, 2 on a WMA, however. Well, I needed to go to a different property and hunt. So I ended up driving to this one spot, and it's where I missed the first turkey of the season. I go up in there, and dude, I knew it was going to be windy. I was looking at the radar and stuff. It's going to be pretty windy, but I'm like, it's fine. Like, we'll get up there. I know where they're roosting at. I get out of the truck at the little parking spot, and it sounded like I was parked next to a whitewater river. Dude, I'm talking about, it's 4 a.m., and trees are like, not bending over, but they are snapping on the top.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
And I already thought, I'm like, this is not going to be good. Like, I don't think it's worth me walking in here, but I'm like, I'm already here. We're going to go do it. So I hike up, go get to the spot, listen, nothing. End up doing, never hear a gobble the whole day. Get back to the truck at 1 o'clock, did 8.5 miles.
Yeah, you called me that day and you were like, man, you just go from the highest to highest. You're like, all my confidence is gone.
Gone.
I was like, man, it's funny how you can be on like such a hot streak and then you have one bad hunt, you know, it was like 4 hours of negative hunting and you're like right back.
4?
Well, how long were you hunting for?
I mean, daylight, 5:30, gobbling time to 1.
Okay.
7
More than
hours. 8, almost 8. Yeah,
Well,
anyway. But
one day hunting.
Yeah, one day, and I was like, I'm upset, like, because I know there's birds here, and I ended up going a different route than I typically have hunted in there, trying to go check out some new ground because of how windy it was. I'm trying to, get down on one of these bobs and just trying to see if I can find some sign. Found some sign, but ended up not ever locating the bird. The next day, I had so me and Shane Parker were texting back and forth, and I was going to go to a different piece of public and go hunt. And he's like, dude, he's like, I'd hunt that piece of public, but he's like, I'd check out this parcel instead of the parcel you're going to, and he's like, I'd go and check this area out. Like I've killed some birds here. I'm like, okay, cool, I'll go check it out. So I ended up going in there and getting up on this big ridge, just kind of listening. And again, hear a bird gobble about 5:25, 5:30. Gobbles probably 8 or 10 times on the roost. End up trying to drop off my ridge to go towards them, and there's a pretty good sized creek down there. And I'm like, and you could hear it roaring. And I'm like, I don't know if I can cross this creek because we had just got some rain like 2 days before.
Man, that's not the attitude of a killer.
I know. Well, listen, I don't mind getting wet. Like I'll get through some water, but I'm like, there's enough elevation that I'm like, I can't see all the way down there, and if I got to lose all this elevation and I can't cross this creek like safely, that's like it's just because like once I get over the top of the ridge, like lip of the ridge, I'm not gonna be able to hear anything. Yeah, it was like that kind of situation. So I'm like, I'm just gonna hold up because at about 5:45, turkey flew down, he shut up, didn't gobble again. So I start paralleling the creek up on the ridge, along the creek, doing some soft calling. End up at probably work 300-400 yards down, pull out my box call, and do a yelp sequence on it, like a 6-note yelp sequence, and nothing. Do it again, that turkey gobbles across the creek. But again, I'm like 400 or 500 yards past him, but he gobbles. I'm like, I'm going to stand here for a second and just see if he keeps gobbling, or if he just gobbled one time, that's it. And let me see if he cuts the distance, whatever. Yeah. So I stand there, it's like 7:30. And maybe a minute goes by, and all of a sudden he's bah, bah, bah. It just starts gobbling. I'm like, okay. And I'm thinking, and the creek didn't sound as bad where I was at. I'm like, I think I can make it across. And he just kept gobbling. I sat there for like maybe a couple minutes just listening to him gobble. I'm like, okay, let's go try this bird. So dropped down the creek. I was able to cross the creek fine in that spot. Go up the other side of the ridge, start working up. When I got up to the top of the ridge, I couldn't hear. Once I got down the creek, I couldn't hear him anymore. Just couldn't hear him gobble. When I got back on the ridge, got close to the top of it, I could hear him gobble. And again, he's like 400 yards down, 400 yards down. And I'm like, I was looking at the maps, looking at Onyx, and on the ridge he was on, there's like a little secondary point that kind of came out on the back side of the ridge. So I was on, say, east side of the ridge. He was on the west side of the ridge. There's a little point on the west side of the ridge he was on. And he just kept gobbling. I'm like, I don't need to call him from right here. Like the woods are real open, and there's like a little food plot right there. And I'm like, I don't need to call from here because I'm like, anybody that's ever walked in here is probably calling from like somewhere in this general area. And I'm like, I just don't think I can kill him from this spot. So I just didn't say a word. He's just gobbling on his own, like gobble, like, once a minute, twice a minute, something like that. So I slip on the backside of the ridge. There's a high knob on that ridge. I ended up getting up on that knob, getting about 120 yards from this turkey before saying anything. So I get up on that knob, and it's one of those situations, looking back like a year ago, I probably would have sat there for 30 minutes trying to figure out what tree to sit on. Because, it wasn't a lot of big trees on that knob. There was, 2 big oak trees, but they were, one was on his side of the knob, looking down at him. I'm like, there's no way I can get to that one. The other one's, on the side slope, and I'm like, I don't like that either. It'll be 5 yards to the top of the knob. I can't see.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm like, I need to sit on top of the knob. And, it's like I can shoot 25 yards right here on top, and then I can shoot off the edges 40 yards to my left and right. So I just set up against a small oak tree. Small white oak, maybe 10 to 14 inches diameter. And same situation as some of these other birds, when I've set up on them, is kicking out the spot, kind of sound like a turkey, not yelping, not calling, nothing like that, just kicking out. And I do that, he gobbles at it. I start kicking the leaves out, and he go, bah, bah. I'm like, okay. So I sit down, and what I do, so this is the hard thing, and I've had this cross my mind multiple times, even when I was hunting with Thomas, today when we kill this other bird, is when he's gobbling good, you almost feel like you want to call at him loud.
Oh, yeah.
You're like, oh, I want to let him know I'm here, okay? And again, they can hear so good, you don't have to do that. If he's 600-700 yards, yeah, okay, I get it. But he's inside 200 yards, you don't have to do that. So, and that's something I really learned this season. So when I sit down, he gobbled at me scratching out the leaves, and he kind of shut up. And then I sit down, and I started out doing a yelp sequence just like this. Again, real soft. and then it started clucking. Real soft. I do that, no response. Give it, a little, maybe like a minute. And this, I'll explain this as well. Give it like a minute, and I do it again. I don't do any yelps, so I just start clucking on it. So I start clucking and purring. So again, just like very little pressure on the striker. And I do that, and he gobbles. Second I started purring, he cut me off. And
Dang.
So I'm like, okay, cool. So I put the call down and start scratching the leaves. So I kind of put the call in my lap and got the gun laying right there, and I just start scratching like, he gobbles. I do it again, he gobbles. I'm like, all right, cool. We're going to sit still. At that time, last time he gobbled was like 120 yards. I shut up. Next time he gobbles, he's probably like 80. He's cut the distance a little bit, gobbles again. And then when he gets to about 80, I scratch again in the leaves. Don't make another sound, just scratch it. Shut up for a second, gobbled again. Now he's probably at 60. He's like right up past that knob. And at that point, I think I might have purred like just a little bit, like super, super soft on the call, and just scratching the leaves just a little bit more. And then that was it. I just put the call down. I already had the gun up. And next thing I know, he gobbles, and he's at the base of that knob right in front of me. So, like, I'm sitting on top of the knob looking off where it drops off. I can shoot about 25 yards to the crest, and he gobbles at the base of that knob. And I'm like, I'm like, just give me the opportunity. I'm like, just give me an opportunity.
You better mess up.
And next thing I know, so there was like a cut bank on that side of the knob. Like when I was walking to the spot, I could tell, like, I don't know if I can call him up that. He climbed that thing.
Oh, damn.
I'm talking like that turkey was coming. So he came up with that little cut wall. It was probably like maybe 4 or 5 foot tall. And then I'll hear gun up. And the next thing, he gobbles right at the lip of that ridge. I can kind of see like part of his tail fan. He like goes in a strut and then gobbles right there. He gobbles like 30 yards. And then when he does it, I hear him drumming. Like, I couldn't hear him drumming when he was off the knob, but when he got up on the knob, I can hear him real well. And so he gobbles right there, gets behind a tree, and I'm like, got the gun. I'm like, he just got to come around the side of this tree. Well, he walks like perfectly behind the tree till he can't anymore. Comes up behind that tree, hits another tree. And I'm like, when he comes out from behind the second tree, he's dead. He comes up behind the second tree, and I'm like, dude, that turkey looks huge. And I pull the trigger, he's dead. He's like 19 steps. That's why he looks so. I mean, he was big. He was a big turkey. I mean, like talking body wise and everything, but his head looked so big. But he's like, 19 steps from me.
Yeah.
Like right there. He just came out, kind of looking, boom, done. And I'm like, that's 4.
That's 4, baby.
And that's where I calculated.
You're tagged out.
That's where I calculated. I'm like, dude, that's 7 days. 4 turkeys. Only hunted 5 days, I think. 4 birds in 5 days. 5 hunts, I mean.
That's legit.
So, but yeah, it was unbelievable. And that turkey's got some gigantic spurs. I got to measure him again. He's like right at 1.5 inches, or maybe just a touch under 1.5 inches.
I think they're 1.5 inches all day.
He's ridiculous. But dude, so this is cool. Okay, I learned something else about this. So I'm sitting there. I'm kind of soaking in. I come back to the tree. I put the turkey down next to me. I was just sitting there, like kind of just taking it in the morning because I killed him at like maybe 8:20, 8:15, something like that.
Uh-huh.
And by the time I sat on that turkey to the time he was dead was like maybe 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Like, again, didn't say a word until I was right in that spot. Well, I'm sitting there. It's been like 20 minutes. I'm just hanging out. And I hear and I'm like, is that another turkey coming? And it's coming right up the knob. And I'm like, I don't have my face mask on or anything. I just pull my phone out and I start filming. And I'm like, let's just see what this is. And I'm like, maybe it's a hen or something because he's been gobbling his head off, okay? And the next thing I know, this freaking longbeard pops up behind the tree at 20 yards.
I'll tell you what, that longbeard is lucky that you're an honest fella.
Yeah.
There's a lot of guys who'd have smoked that joker.
I post that in the Public Land Turkey Hunter group, and one dude's like, was your trigger broken?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, man. A lot of people would have freaking shot that thing and walked him out one at a time.
Yeah, no. But yeah, so he came up, looked around, and like never really spooked, never putted, nothing like that. He just like looked around, started side hilling, and then just like kind of like started high stepping off the knob.
And he gave you every opportunity.
Oh yeah. But the thing is, what was kind of interesting is this is the only turkey that was gobbling like that. I didn't hear, like, I heard one more bird real early in the morning, but he never talked again. But after I shot this turkey, this other longbeard came in and investigate, and I was talking to Shane because again he's kind of hunting in that area as well quite a bit in the past. And he's like, every year it seems like there's a gobbler somewhere in that area that like I killed this turkey in that's kind of like that dominant turkey. And he's like, if he's in there, there'll be 6 or 8 maybe other longbeards in that area, but they won't talk. He's like, they may gobble a couple times, but he's like, most of the turkeys I've killed in there, they came in quiet. Because he's like, I've never really tried to kill a turkey in that spot because it's hard to kill them because everybody else hunts in that area.
Yeah.
And anyway, so I think like after he killed that bird, all the other ones were probably like, oh man, he's gone now. Maybe we can start talking.
Yeah,
I told Shane, I'm like, dude, you get back in there and see if they gobble real good the next couple of days.
Yeah.
I don't know if he did. He said he was going to go in there, but I haven't talked to him and asked if he actually did that. But again, that right there gave me a lot of confidence kind of with the subtle calling, like tremendous confidence of like just how well those turkeys can hear. But again, it's something that me a year ago, 2 years ago, 4 years ago, I would have never done that. Like if I was purring, it would have been like this. Like you hear people purring, or like what I would use purr, it'd be like this.
Ooh. So that'd be like a fighting
Like
bird.
a fighting purr. Yeah, I never thought about like super soft purring or like super soft clucking or anything like that until we did that episode with Coach Ron Waters, and it just paid off so well. But again, like I just had a lot of confidence running that call where like I've got one of the Dixie Hen crystals and I like it, and it's got like a really sharp sound, but there's like a hollowness that this call has, and it's hard to explain. Like if you hear a glass call, it's like real sharp, crisp.
Yeah.
Like just it's like a very specific kind of sound where like the ceramic it's got like
it's not as sharp.
It's not nearly as sharp, but when I've heard hens, it's like you don't really hear I don't really hear ever a lot of sharp hens.
Yeah, I don't either. That's why I started using that ceramic this year, and that's about the only. I'll run my slate too, but I really, really, really like that ceramic. And also, just one more thing on that turkey spurs, dude. So you cleaned them. You were house sitting for me, and you cleaned those birds, and the feet and everything were in a Ziploc in the freezer. And when I got home, I took it out and looked at it, and I was like, "Dang, dude." Like those spurs, I mean, we're going to post pictures, but for real, the pictures do not do them justice because the turkey I shot last year had 1.5-inch spurs, like right on the dot, 1.5 inches. And so yours has them too, but yours they're like fatter. I mean, dude, they're just like huge.
Yeah.
Like they're girthier and they're the same length, but they're just like giant looking.
Just like me. I'm a little girthy. In the midsection.
I was waiting for that.
Yeah.
But no, dude, that was a super impressive bird. And like turkey hunt, it's about the experience, But I like a big old limb hanger.
Well, see that
big old hook spurred turkey.
Even if he didn't have big spurs, the thing about that hunt that made it so memorable is again he did everything right. Came in gobbling,
climbed up a bank.
Dude. He came up something steep that I didn't think you could call a turkey. I was really imagining he's going to circle me one way or the other, and I'm going to have to hear him walk around the edge of the knob and spin on him, and, before he gets there and get a shot. And that's what I thought he was going to do, but no, he came right up that embankment. And just he was ready. So, but again, I just the subtle calling. The thing about the subtle calling that I like, and after we've killed 2 more birds since then. So I've been a part of 6 birds I've called in and seen die. 4 for me, 2 for Thomas.
Yep.
But you'll hear about those next week. Maybe we'll have a 3rd one dead because we're gonna hunt Saturday. And then also part of the 7th bird was with Greg when he killed his bird when he came down here and hunted with me in Alabama, and the confidence, like that soft calling, scratching the leaves and stuff like that, and just acting like a hen that's like content, feeding, really not giving the gobbler a whole bunch of attention. And if he truly wants her, he's going to have to come and find her, because you hear people talk about this all the time in biologists as well. It's like when you're calling to a turkey and you're trying to get that gobbler to come to you, it's not natural. It's not like how nature intended. Like the hens go to the gobblers. And if you're calling like real excited, I know some guys that kill a lot of turkeys, okay? Calling real aggressive, real excited. Like I got some really good buddies that do that, and it works for them. But I think and some of those guys hunt private land, some of those guys hunt public land, some of them hunt both. But I think like especially because all these turkeys I killed was like late in the season, especially the one we killed today was May the 1st. I mean, it's real late in the season. They've been called to, they've been shot at, they've been bumped, and it's like not acting like an overly excited hen and just like a content hen. If he really wants to breed, he's got to come find that content hen and like come and investigate her.
Yeah.
Instead of like, trying to, get him all excited. Like right now, I don't think I would try to, I say I probably wouldn't try to cut at one. My thing is like, especially this point of the season is like when we hunt with Thomas, if we can hear one gobble on the roost, even if he shuts up on the ground, if we can get in that general area within 200 yards of where he was roosted at and set up and call, I feel like right now, again, we have a pretty good chance to call him in. He may come in silent, but he may not. Like the one today did not come in silent. It was amazing.
It kind of makes me wonder too, because the bird I killed earlier in the year was kind of like that as well, where I was calling super, super soft, and then he just like marched up in there like he owned the place. And even the one we called in on opening morning that we didn't kill, that was very soft. I was using the Spurmaster, which is a very quiet call, and called that bird up. And it kind of makes me wonder how often they're hanging out within earshot, and maybe they've closed the distance. Maybe they gobbled at you, maybe they didn't. But they've closed the distance, and they're kind of like sitting there like, okay, where's she at? What's my next move? And that little bit of calling like puts them over the edge, because a lot of times it's quick. Well, like after you do that calling sequence, it's like 5 minutes or less. You hear that march. You hear the gobbler march.
You do. You absolutely do. And another thing, and like this played a factor for today, which I don't want to go too much in the hunt, but I will run this call. I will call more than I used to when I was calling loud, but it's so soft and subtle. Like, again, when I've been around hens, like last year, I had a really good opportunity. 8 hens around me. I've talked about it on the podcast before. And they were around me for 30 minutes. They literally never stopped making a sound. They were whining, they were purring, and they were clucking the whole time. Well, at least one of them was doing it. And my thought is with the subtle calling is, if you are doing that subtle call, like again, like 10, 15, 20% volume, maybe 30% volume, you can do more of it and act realistic and scratching the leaves to kind of draw that gobbler in. And whether he's hung up or not, like I was talking to a friend of ours that's a listener to the podcast, and about some of the hunts that they've been on and stuff like that. And they killed a bird and called in, I think they said they called in like 10 birds this season, but a lot of them hung up. And we were talking about call style, and she was like, I'm calling pretty aggressive, like, calling, not like real aggressive, but, yelping and cutting and, just louder purrs. And I'm like, just try for the next couple of hunts, just doing a lot softer and just seeing how it plays out. Because the one thing I realized, like the turkey today we killed, I called when he was at 50, 60 yards. I'm talking super soft clucks in I'm talking, I'll do it real quick.
As quiet as you can go?
Yeah, I'm talking like barely any pressure on here. I don't know if y'all can hear that in your truck. Just like, I'm super soft. And, dude, he would gobble and keep coming. But the thing is, when he popped up over the ridge, and you'll hear Thomas tell the story on this, he didn't know exactly where I was at when I was calling. He came up. He never looked at me, never looked at Thomas. He just came up over the ridge, kind of over to our right just a little bit. Just looking down, looking around, never looked in our direction.
Yeah.
And I'm like, and Coach talked about that, where you call super, super soft like that, even when they're coming in, and setting up in a spot where, like, you can't see super far, okay? You want to be able to see as far as your gun can shoot, and you feel confident. Like, again, I want to be preferably where they pop up 40 yards or less, but, like, not closer than, like, 25 yards, unless I can hear them. If I can hear them coming, 25 yards is fine, 20, 25 yards, as long as it's in leaves, I can hear them walking in it and get a pretty good pinpoint of them. But he didn't even look at our tree. He just came up looking around, kept walking, like literally was walking off. Like, if I was facing 12 o'clock, he came out at maybe 1 o'clock, maybe almost 2, and never looked in our direction, just came up over the ridge, just looking down to my right. And it must have been like the way that sound was kind of echoing up that little drainage next to me.
Yeah.
But I'm like, dude, it is awesome. And like, we've had a couple different listener success stories come in, like in the last couple of days.
Oh yeah, immediately.
Where people are doing that.
Yeah, that episode immediately started generating listener success stories, and we posted a couple of those. If you have one, make sure you send it in to us, because we will post it, especially now that turkey season's kind of winding down. I want to ask a couple questions about the situation around like kind of all these birds that you've ended up killing. And one of the first things I'm curious about is your take on the idea that people are messing with the turkeys like all year. When you're in early season, they're henned up, they're quote unquote not acting right because they got enough hens. There's guys in the woods everywhere calling to them, and everything's just kind of weird. And as the season goes on, the hens start going to nest and people quit hunting. And then they kind of start acting like turkeys again. What's your take on, like, do you feel like you just hit it at the right time, and like, because we were hunting, and then all of a sudden, like, you're calling in birds? Because even the ones you missed, it was like an all day chess match, where you're like really cat and mouse.
One of them. The other one should have killed him right off the roof at 7 o'clock, and I whiffed it.
Oh yeah.
Easy there, easy.
Yeah, okay. But anyways, you get what I'm saying, right?
Yeah, I think so. But also, again, y'all are gonna hear this next week. The first turkey Thomas killed, which was this past Saturday, I didn't realize it was 2 gobblers. I could only see one. Thomas could see the other one. 2 gobblers and a hen.
Yep.
They had a hen with her. And I was able to call the hen up and kind of drift that gobbler into gun range, and that's how Thomas was able to kill that turkey. So, kind of going back to your question. Yeah, I think that's a factor for sure. But I had better gobbling activity early in the season. Mm-hmm. It's like later in the season, I've only had a couple hunts where they actually gobbled on the ground, like fairly good. Again, 2 of these turkeys, really you almost say 3 of them, other than that. The first one I kind of struck him, but he came in quiet. Like he gobbled when he responded to the calls, when I was calling a little more aggressively, and then he shut up, came in quiet. I think a lot of people, and I talked to a couple of our buddies that are a little bit more kind of run and gun mindset. 3 of those birds that I killed, those first 3, I think most people would have like just left the area because they stopped talking or they weren't gobbling. And they would just like left.
Yeah.
And my thought process is like, if you can find those areas, all those areas I've killed all these turkeys in had super fresh scratch. I'm talking like within the last 2 days, the leaves are all lofted up. The ground still looks kind of moist. It's not all dried out. Like there's turkeys in this area. Mm-hmm. And just hanging out in that area, I think is paid off more than just trying to run and gun. Because I think a lot of people think of like, oh, turkeys acting like turkeys. You just go find like a really good gobbling turkey and go get them killed in 15 minutes.
Yeah.
That wasn't most of these hunts. That was only one of the hunts. The other hunts that I actually killed birds on, it was like a more longer drawn out situation. Kill them later in the morning. Latest I killed one was at 10:40. And, for 3 of those turkeys, a total yardage I covered for 3 of those birds from daylight to the time I killed them, like total might have been like 600, 700 yards total. Mm-hmm. I just found an area that they were using. I've heard birds roosted here. I've seen birds this season, last season, both seasons using this area or using these areas and going in and just like hanging with them and just acting like that content hen in that area and then trying to, either strike a bird or get a bird to come in silent. Because like Ron said, everybody wants to kill a gobbling turkey. Everybody wants to hear a turkey gobble. But he's like, do you want to hear him gobble or do you want to kill the turkey?
Yep.
Because if you want to kill the turkey, you might have to kill him coming in silent. If he comes in silent, most people are going to leave that turkey and walk off and find a new turkey to go hunt. And it's like, I'm not going to try to leave one to go find another one if I know he's in this area.
Yeah,
and
definitely.
I think kind of like the persistence factor that Coach said. So I think that played a factor. But yeah, I think the big thing is I think later in the season that kind of helps is you're finding more gobblers, especially mid-morning by themselves. They don't have all the hens. Mm-hmm. And that's, I think, a huge factor. I think that is a really big factor.
Yeah, and also these spots that you ended up killing these birds in, this is not the first time that you walked into those spots, correct?
One of Thomas's, it was the first time. And the last one was the first time I went in, but the other 3, it's areas I've hunted in the past couple of years.
The one y'all killed this morning?
Yeah. I've hunted that general area. I've never hunted that specific 100 acres.
Yeah, but you've been within half mile.
Yeah, for sure.
So you've hunted the area.
Hunted the area, yeah. Absolutely.
So you've been in like all the areas, or did any of them, were you just going in absolute cold turkey, like never even parked at that gate before?
The 4th turkey, yes.
Okay.
The fourth turkey, never been in that area. Again, Shane was like, dude, I'd go check this area out. The other area you're talking about going to, I think is good. Just had a lot of hunters kind of in that area. Mm-hmm. He's like, I'd probably check this out. So the 4th turkey, new area, hadn't been in there, hunted it, and was able to find a good turkey to go kill. That was gobbling real good. The other 3, like you said, it's areas I've hunted in the past. And one thing that was a big factor this year, and every turkey that I've killed with Thomas, I've gone out, like even after I tagged out, I've been going out almost every morning listening.
Yeah. And
like checking different spots listening. And one morning I located 5 different birds that like 100% I pinned in spots like gobbled real good. I heard a few more, but they're super far off, and I couldn't figure out exactly what direction the gobbles were coming from, like really, really faint gobbles.
Yeah.
And that was a factor for how we killed Thomas's birds. Mm-hmm. Both of his birds were like that because of that. So I think like one of our buddies, Kyle Sides, I was talking to him, and he mentioned this to me. He's like, when I first started hunting public, like real hard for turkeys, the first year I killed like 1 turkey. And he's like, you're like learning areas. You're trying to figure out like where turkeys are at, how they're using different areas at different points of the season. Because like you'll find them in one area where they're using it really heavy early season, and you might not find them 3 weeks into season.
Yeah,
they just might not be there because of hunting pressure, just whatever, like the habitat change. And then you kind of find where they're at mid-season. You find where they like to be late season. You're finding all these different roost sites and like these historical roost sites where they're using year after year. And he's like, year 2 is when I killed 4. Year 3, I killed 4, and so on. Because he's like, you start learning all these different spots and where these birds are using these areas, and you're not trying to go find, like, yeah, you're always trying to find new spots, but you also already have like these 5, 6, 8 different spots that there's birds that you understand based off, success, failures from the previous season of like different mishaps, how the birds are using it. And like the area that Greg killed his turkey, that's where I killed my first bird I killed last year, second day of public land season. And I know that area very well.
Yeah.
All the terrain features, all the ways to get in on a turkey in that spot, because I've walked it extremely well, and it's a pretty big section. And like when his bird gobbled, I knew how we should approach that turkey and do this big wide loop and kind of hug the side of this big ridge in order to get in on him. And I think that played a factor instead of like trying to go right at the turkey in some open woods.
Yeah.
So it kind of goes back to like what the shirt says, this is old Meadow Creek shirt, old woodsmanship. I think that's a huge factor, like learning areas. And like Wayne Lackey talked about this.
Yep.
Like walking so much in these spots that every little thing that could keep a gobbler from coming to you. And every way that if he's gobbling this spot, how to approach him in order to call him into a killable site.
Yeah. And also gaining that history, where they typically drift to. Mm-hmm. That's how I killed my bird this year. It's just like history. It's 2 years of history of that spot now.
Yep.
The other thing I want to ask about too, and this is kind of a situation, like obviously it's pretty unique for you. But I mean, a lot of our guests actually have similar situations where you have a job that allows you to kind of go whenever you want, and you can pick and choose good weather days, and you can also string a lot of days together. So talk about the impact of that, because like I just want to address it, because a lot of people might be listening. They're like, "Dang man, like he went out and he just called a little bit, freaking did his soft calling and started killing birds." But you get to hunt like every day.
Yeah, if you're hunting on the weekends, like it would be tough, dude. Because the thing is,
and outside of sometimes we'll have a meeting or something like in the mornings that you got to go to, but outside of that, you don't have a time restraint most of the time. So like just address that part of it.
So I mean that is a huge factor. I need to count how many days I've actually hunted this season, or at least gone out and listened, because it's a lot. I say a lot. I mean it's over probably 16, 17 days easy. And it's a huge factor. It's like one of these, if you were able to take off a week to hunt, it's completely, I mean, of course it's completely different than hunting on a weekend or something where you get 1 or maybe 2 days to hunt a week if you're lucky. And to be able to like compound where like you hunt an area, you get on a bird, you don't kill them. Kind of like what Ron says. He's like, you always hunt them the next day. Well, a lot of guys can't hunt them the next day.
Yeah.
Because they don't live right where they turkey hunt. They don't get the chance. Like, you're blessed enough to have the club 5 minutes from the house. So it's like,
and that's how I killed my turkey this year, because like I don't quite have that flexibility yet, but I do have the flexibility that I can go like during the week. Out of the 5 weekdays, I can usually go 3, maybe 4 of them.
That's a lot for
at least. But here's the thing: I can only go until like 7 a.m. Those days. So if I don't immediately kill a turkey, like I'm leaving.
Yeah.
But it's still good because I'm learning about the area and where they want to be. And the week I killed that turkey, I'd hunted, I think, twice that week, and they were on this knob both days. And I'm like, Saturday, I got all day. We're going straight to that spot. Yep. And we killed him at 6:30.
Yep.
Because we just got straight in there. But that was because I rolled that. I rolled 3 hunts together, and it wasn't back-to-back days. It was like I think I went Tuesday and Friday, and Saturday we.
It was like within a week. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I mean, the thing is, the more you can compound those hunts, it's just like deer hunting, and we talk about this deer hunting all the time. It's like the more you can compound those hunts in like not a super expanded period of time, but in like a more compressed period of time, like within a week, 2 weeks. You're going to figure out exactly how those turkeys are doing, because the thing is, it gave me more confidence on the days when they weren't gobbling. I've heard them gobbling here. It might have been 2 days ago, might have been a week ago. They're still probably
but they're in here, buddy.
Yeah, whether they gobble or not, I know they're in this general area, and that's a huge factor. That's like one thing is like if you can't go hunt, if you live within decent driving distance where you could go out and listen for 30 minutes in the morning and just listen for gobbles.
Yeah.
And then get on X, drop
Just
your pins.
bring you a cup of coffee out there.
Drop your pins of where you're seeing these birds at. And if you can do that during the week, a couple days during the week, and then like, hey, you can only hunt a Saturday.
If you can only do that one day of the week, it's worth it.
It'd be huge.
It's worth
it'd be huge. Because the thing is, so I've only had, I should have thought about this before we did this episode. I've had less than 5 days this year I've gone out and not heard a gobble.
Yeah.
Been like very blessed hearing birds. And that's on a bunch of different pieces of the public. So that's like a huge confidence booster because like I'm able to drop so many pins on so many different areas where like I'm hearing birds that like I have areas to go jump back into. And it's like the average dude, like me back before I was doing the podcast full time.
Yeah.
There ain't no way. Like, dude, I had to be there at like 7:30. I mean, I could have maybe got drunk. I don't think, unless you had a hunting club, like there's no way to go really like listen on public. I mean, maybe like later in the season. Like the thing is, like when you start getting the late season, like right now in Alabama, it's getting gobbling time at 5:20. Like I've heard gobbles at 5:18, 5:20, 5:25 right now.
Yep.
So it's like if you could just listen to 6 and then drive, whether it's an hour or 20 minutes or whatever to work, go to work, whatever. Do that, and you can truly set yourself up in order to figure out exactly where you need to hunt based off conditions, based off where you're hearing the birds, and are they? Does it seem like, especially if you can listen a couple days during like 1 week, like say you get to go out 2 days, and you go back to the same spot each day, and like you constantly are hearing birds in the same little point, same little draws, whatever, like gobble on the limb. Well, now you know exactly where they're going, and the thing is, it's great to hear them gobble on the limb, but if you can stay around until they fly down and get a couple gobble on the ground and figuring out, are they staying there? Or are they drifting down? Are they drifting up on a ridge, whatever? And then pinpoint where they're trying to go. Like, even if it's 400 yards away, if he's gobbling pretty good and you can hear him okay, you can get, like, I'll tell you what, the biggest feature I've used this year that's truly helped is that compass feature on X.
Oh, 100%.
Because you can turn that on and you can point your phone in the exact direction that this gobble's coming from, and you can look at it.
It lays a line down.
It lays a line. It has yardages on there, and you can zoom in, zoom out to like adjust the yardages and figure out. And you can look at it based off how you're hearing the turkey, the situation. You can figure out exactly within 100 yards probably of where that turkey's gobbling from. And I've done that a ton this year, and it's worked out extremely well.
Yep.
Especially when you're trying to like pin one that's on a roost, or if he's on the ground. And the difference between leaf off and leaf on conditions. I mean, when public land season opened this year, for a lot of places I was turkey hunting, it was already trees were pretty green. They weren't fully leafed out, but they were pretty green. So like the gobbles weren't nearly as crisp as it was like when we were hunting the club, when like there was no leaves on the trees really, or like very little, and like you can hear very easily from a super long ways away.
Oh, yeah.
It's like when the leaves come on the trees, you can't hear very far. I mean, if you get up in a real high spot, there's a lot of air between you and the turkey, even if there's some vegetation from it. But if you can get up real high and hear, you can hear pretty far. Like this morning when we got on these birds, like they were probably, when I first heard them, they were probably, I think 650, 700 yards from me. But there wasn't a whole bunch between me and the turkeys, which was like a big factor. So like how I could hear them. If I was like down like lower listening, I don't think I could have heard them as easily.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's a huge factor. But yeah, the more times you can go out and just listen. Like if you can't hunt, just go and listen and pinpoint birds, whether you're on your hunting club, private land that you own, or on public land, you're going to tremendously help yourself going out for the limited times you actually have to hunt.
Yeah, and even Coach Waters talked about that in his episode, because he was talking about back when I guess he was working at a school, and he had to be there at 8:30 in the morning, and he's still going before work and going after work, and it goes back to that tenacity that we talk about, like especially with deer hunting.
Persistence.
But persistence, like you just got to want it, dude.
Yeah.
You just got to want it. Like how hard are you going to work for it? That's
Yeah.
really what there is to it.
And running on a very limited amount of sleep.
Dude, you can sleep after turkey season.
I know, that's what I've been telling myself. One thing I noticed, I was telling you this at dinner, is like when you go like 4 or 5 days in a row and you're getting like 4 or 5 hours of sleep, like you're going to bed at like 9 o'clock, waking up at 2, going to bed at 10 o'clock, waking up at 2, 2:30 to go over to some public. It's like the first couple of days really suck, but after that, your body kind of gets used. At least my body
adjust.
You kind of adjust to it, and I'm like, it's not fun, but I'm like, I can deal with it. Like, by 6 o'clock, I'm like ready to go to bed, but you know, it's not bad.
Well, then on the day that you take off, you sleep for like 9 hours and you wake up feeling like someone beat you up.
Oh yeah, like
feel terrible.
I did that. Did that not today because we killed today. I did that yesterday, and I woke up. I think I got like 8.5 hours of sleep. I woke up and I'm like, I feel worse today than I did when I've been hunting like this whole past week or going out and listening every morning.
Yep.
And but yeah, I'm just going back. Like the more times you can listen, you're just going to compound your success. Like you really are.
One other thing I want to address before we wrap up is you just mentioned it, and it reminded me about how green it was by the time public season opened. Even when private season opened, March 25th.
Yeah,
it was pretty green. We had a little bit of an early spring this year, and I just want to bring this up. Keep the receipts, everybody, and this happens almost every year. Everyone's like, it's greening up. They're going to be gobbled out. We're having an early spring. It's going to screw up turkey season. Every year, people say stuff like that. They said it last year. I remember too. They said it this year.
They can say it. Please say it next year. Y'all go crappie fish.
What's your take on that?
Y'all go crappie fish.
That's right.
There ain't no turkeys.
Yeah, it ain't working. So everyone just keep that in mind. Look, it'll be our little secret with our listeners.
Yeah.
All of y'all. Everyone will be on Facebook, and they're gonna be talking down at the sporting goods store. People are gonna be like, they're gobbled out. It's the early spring. They're gonna be done with. It is not true. It's just not true, man.
Yeah.
And last year, you went on the last day of season and heard 13 birds.
Yeah.
On the last day, which was what, May 8th last year? May 8th in Alabama. Just a couple years ago, we weren't even open on May 8th.
Yeah. No.
We closed on April 30th a couple years ago. And it just goes to show. I heard a guy in that same area kill a turkey on like May 4th or May 5th. That just a couple days before season closed. And it was the same thing for me. I heard several different birds gobbling, and one was like burning it up, and then didn't work out for him.
Yeah. He was burning it up until he hit the
I was like, dude, this turkey's, I was trying to get to him. I was like, dude, this turkey's burning it up. And then I heard a gunshot. I was like, oh, that's why he was burning it up.
Yeah. But no, it's a really good point. I mean, it's one of those things now, like if we travel out of state to turkey hunt, because I've got an Arkansas tag. I got Tennessee license as well. I'm not going to be able to do Arkansas because we got stuff coming up this week, and their season ends this Sunday on the 5th. So I can't do Arkansas, but I might try to go to Tennessee because they're open to the 25th, maybe for a day or so, and try to hunt. But I'm now looking forward to more like kind of later season hunting in some of these states instead of like trying to get there when the crowds are there, like the first week or two. Yeah. Because the thing is like statistically, not a ton of those turkeys are going to get killed. Like, if you look at statistics, like where they've done studies on like different pieces of public land and private land, just like statewide, a lot of those turkeys aren't going to get killed.
No,
there's going to be a few. There's going to be a few.
Yep.
But it looks like, especially on social media, that like all these turkeys are getting killed, and it definitely can look like that. But statistically, only like 46 to 50% of hunters kill one turkey.
Yep.
And then by the time you get to two turkeys, it's like, I think it's in the.
I have to look it back up.
I think it's in the.
It's not a lot.
It's like 20 percentile something. Anyways, so it's like there's still going to be birds there. The problem is when you're talking about gobbled out. Again, I've had recently this last week. The last time I heard good gobbling was this past Friday. We hunted Saturday. Y'all will hear this story next week. Turkey we ended up killing, gobbled out a 4-wheeler. Pretty crazy story. That was the only gobble we heard all day. Hunted Sunday, didn't hear a gobble. I went out. I've lost track. Today's a Wednesday. I went out. Did I go out Monday? I don't know. I lost track. Maybe went out Monday, didn't hear anything. Didn't go out Tuesday, didn't go out yesterday. Thomas went out in the afternoon, didn't hear anything. And then went today, heard some birds today. But it's like, we went multiple days without hearing really any gobbling activity. Yeah. And that like will kill people's confidence.
Yeah. Especially when it's hot, bugs are out.
Humid. I mean,
you get a couple days with no gobbles.
It's rough, man. It really is. But it goes back to like trying to listen, especially early in the season, mid-season, like going out any chance you can, even if it's 30 minutes, listening in the mornings. If you can pin birds, more than likely, they're going to shift. But if you can find roost sites, you have places you can go back to and check and spot check, look for scratching, look for all that, sign, tracks, a whole 9 yards, and play on it. Because like I've got a spot now, I know there's 3 birds there, but like we went in there one day. Me and Thomas went in there on Saturday. They didn't gobble. They gobbled real good Friday. We went in there Saturday. They never gobbled. A little higher winds. You went in there on Sunday. They didn't gobble. Kind of high winds. Thomas went back in there today and listened. Thought he might have heard one up on a little point, but it was super faint. Like he's like, I think it was a gobble, but I'm not really that confident. So if that was truly based off where he was telling me where it was gobbling from, it's like 500 yards from where I had roosted, like found him on the roost on the past Friday. So, we ended up moving to another spot where I had heard some birds and ended up, again, killing that one this morning. But it's just, you got to figure out where they're roosting at. I mean, that's the big thing. And, I haven't had a lot of success trying to roost them in the evenings. I've gone out, owl-hooted and stuff like that. I haven't had one turkey in Alabama, and I've owl-hooted. I haven't had one turkey answer an owl hoot yet this season on public land.
Oh.
I've had a couple answer a crow call, but even this one this morning, when we were walking in on this bird this morning and kind of making a big loop on him, I hit a crow call. We're probably 300 yards from that bird. He never gobbled. Okay?
Yeah.
I didn't owl hoot at him, but I just crow called at him. He didn't gobble. And it's like I've had less success this year using locator calls, but it still hasn't it hasn't hurt my confidence because I know he's in this area, he just gobbled. And so on, but it's you gotta realize just because you blow a owl call, like an owl hoot or something like that, does not mean there's not a turkey there if you don't get a response.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I've only had it happen maybe twice this year in the evening on the club. There was that when we were hunting, they gobbled pretty good.
Yeah.
But anyways, all right, we got to wrap this one up. You got any last things? I got some stuff.
One last thing. Again, whether you got some season left or not, I mean, I'm sure you probably got a little bit of season left. If you want to pick up one of these calls, again, this is that Dixie Hen, Houndstooth Dixie Hen custom ceramic. You pick it up from Houndstooth's website. I think it's houndstoothgamecalls.com. And you use the code SOUTHERN and say, no, I'm sorry, use the code
SO24.
No, SOP.
SOP24.
SOP24, you can save 15%.
Why can't we get it right?
I can get it right. I mean, I kind of boogered saying Southern. I was thinking about Meadow Creek. But anyways, you can save 15% on any of these calls just by using the code SOP24. And again, I really like this call. I'm sure you will too. To me, it's a great call from again, calling medium to low volume. You can call louder with it. And I've struck 2 birds this year calling louder with it, but it's for that subtle call, again, killing them, getting within 200 yards, I really like it.
Yeah.
So.
All right, we got some Q&As still in the queue. Our episode formats are still a little bit different because we're in this weird transitional time between deer and turkey content. We're riding out turkey content till the end of season, which is next week. So we'll probably just do one more turkey episode. I don't know. We might do 2 more. It depends on how these last couple hunts go. But this is a Thursday episode, so turkeys are going to be on Thursdays. When we conclude turkey content, we're going back to Q&As on Thursdays. So we've already got some in the queue, but y'all keep writing in your Q&As. I think we've got a couple in the last few days, but y'all write them in. We're going to get hot and heavy into Q&As in May. Going to be real excited about that. The other thing, we haven't gotten a freaking review on iTunes in a while.
Even with Coach Waters' episode, which
I know, what the heck? So here's what we're going to do. Y'all leave some reviews on iTunes, and we're going to read them on the next Thursday episode when we get a decent bit. And we're going to pick our favorite comment and send you a Southern Outdoorsman
comment
blazer.
Or review?
Review. My bad. Review. And we're going to send you a blaze orange Southern Outdoorsman hat and a sticker for free.
So, yeah, I want you to, because I'm sure a lot of you had listened and watched Coach Ron Waters' episode. I want you to leave a review of some of the bigger takeaways you got from that.
Yeah.
From that episode. And yeah, we'll pick somebody and send them a lucky blaze orange hat for deer season.
Lucky blaze orange hat. It comes stocked with good luck.
Yep.
Helps you kill big bucks. So anyways, you got anything else? Close it out with a turkey call. You're about to make me gobble.
Yep.
You're like, you just gave me the feeling of all the guys at NWTF convention where it's especially all the older call makers, you're like, oh, that's a nice looking call. And they always pick it up and they start running it and they make
I know, it's so weird.
Intense eye contact with you and they're running that call, looking at you just like that.
Yeah,
and you're just huh.
Dude, that needs to be a video, like a little meme video.
Hey,
for
look,
NWTF.
one of these freaking comedian guys,
Trent Ellis?
Yeah, one of those guys could make a hilarious video spoofing that where it's every older call maker at NWTF. I love them. I'm not making fun of them, but it's just funny. It's just funny. They really lean in and they look at you right in the eyes.
I mean, dude, they look into your soul, dude. And just while they're running that call, I'm like, dude, stop with
almost like they're expecting you to understand what they're saying.
Yeah. They're expecting you to gobble is what they're expecting.
Anyways.
So, yeah. But, yeah. So, anyways, appreciate everybody watching the podcast. Appreciate everybody listening to the podcast. I know it was a little longer one. Hopefully, y'all got something valuable out of it. Maybe go out there and use some covert calling yourself and go kill you a turkey before season goes out. So, thank y'all for watching. Thank y'all for listening. We'll catch you back on the next episode from the Southern Outdoorsmen Podcast. And remember, guys, y'all stay Southern.